Or I should say, the giver of all donuts. Amen. You just lived that parable. Now, you have to be honest with yourself. When you were still sitting out there, or you're Colin, who said, "No, I don't want a donut," and you find out there really were donuts, how'd you feel? Yeah, but if you're sitting out here, you're going like, "Oh, I wonder if he got any more. He only got 2 boxes. I could really use a donut this morning." And then I got to write a book, things that people actually say to pastors. I don't want that one. No, I want one with sprinkles. Or you lived the parable just now. I knew there'd be trouble the minute I had to. She says, "You must have variety. No, all glazy. No. I don't want variety. They're going to, but even better, I thought, yep, I want variety because you know what the people will do? They're going to live the parable. You see, in our parable today, Jesus says, there's somebody passing out free donuts. And he invites you to come and get a donut. The kids were the first one to get the invitation. And then they were asked, like the other guy went out and said, "Look, there's still more people out there." So he went out and he found other people. "Would you like a donut? Would you like a donut? Would you like a donut?" And they had to come. They had to come in. Go out there too. Make donuts. And there's still more people. He said, "Go ahead." And then there's a couple last people that couldn't get up here. And he said, "I'm not letting them out either. Linda, why are you sitting back here without a donut?" "Nobody brought one to me." "You get a donut too. Matter of fact, Linda, you get a whole box." You see, you just lived the parable. The really hard part is, though it's nummy and delicious and all that other good stuff, the problem is we can't help in the parable but be one of the people who actually ends up at the end of the parable telling the landowner, "Hey, I want one with sprinkles. I don't want that one. I want that one. They took my donut. Y'all got a free donut. How could you complain? How could you complain? How could you say anything but yes? And you got to come find this because yes. But what do? I don't want that one. I want that one. A couple things to look at and pay attention here. First off is the fact that the generosity of the Father who creates us and loves us has a need and a desire to invite. We're the ones who don't get that. They weren't your donuts. How can you all be upset with me if I decide to give them to everybody? I'd rather have a donut. Don't let her have one because, that Linda, I saw what color she painted Megan's house. I ain't going to go there. You see, it's about Jesus. It's not about us. And Jesus wants nothing but for people to be invited because he's passing out free donuts. Period. The only reason there aren't more people here is because we're apparently not thinking that we want people to share our donuts because we want to keep them for ourselves. They're not our donuts. The master looks right at the guy and says, "Are you really upset with me because I'm generous with what I have? Could you really be upset because I'm generous with what I have?" I had a seminary class where the professor, a whole bunch of people turned their papers in on time, and it was the only time I didn't turn my paper in on time. And I looked at the professor, like, okay, we had a problem, and there was a couple other people, and the professor looked at everybody and said, "Okay, I'm going to give you all another 2-day extension." And everybody's like, "Wah, wah, wah." How come they get to turn their papers in 2 days later? He says, "Are you upset with me because I'm generous with what I'm doing? You turned yours in on time. Congratulations. Good job. Well done. Good and faithful servant. But I'm giving them grace because that's what I get to do." Our call is to be people who realize the call and the invitation for free donuts is everywhere and for everyone. We don't get to pick and choose. We don't get to choose. We need to invite. We need to go tell somebody. And you notice I made you go tell somebody and I made you bring them back here. Why? Because you got to realize they aren't going to find out unless you go, and they probably won't come unless you grab them by the hand and say, "No, really, get up here. Get up here. I'm serious." Remember Jesus said to Philip, or Philip said to Nathaniel, "Come and see." Jesus said to Philip, "Come and see. Come and see." He had to bring him to come and see. There's really a guy passing up free donuts here. The second thing we need to realize about this parable is the joy. Did you all enjoy your donuts? Pastor Steve is never going to top this one. Nor do I want him to. Nor do I expect. It's never been a competition. Again, like you said last night.
I might have prime rib when I leave.
Well, then you got to explain to Wanda how you're going to clean that up. But you see, two different people. Pastor Steve said it last night. When we called Pastor Matt here, we said, well, we don't want another Pastor Steve. And he said, you aren't going to get one. You didn't get one. And that's okay, because difference is why it all works. And just like it's different that all of you are here. But everybody shared the same joy. Everybody shared the same joy. You got a free donut. And there's still more. There's at least 6 dozen. We could do it all over again. But you got the joy of what was being invited for and being passed out. And you see, if you actually got the joy, how can you not be inviting? How can you not be telling people about Jesus? How can you not share it with somebody and want somebody to share it if you've actually got it? Tough question. If I'm not inviting, I don't love Jesus enough, is what it really says. I haven't quite figured it out yet. So take the first step and go, okay, I'll go invite somebody. Because the worst they can do is say, no, I don't want a donut. That's their problem. Colin, where's Colin? I don't want a donut. Did Colin end up getting a donut? Yeah, because God keeps after them, and he will keep after them, but he's only told you to do one thing: share the joy, invite, tell somebody about the fact that this guy's passing out free donuts. But the hardest part of this parable, is what happens at the end. Why do they get a donut? I know all about that person. They haven't been here. They're not wearing the right clothes. They're whatever. Why do they get a donut? The parable is about a heart of humility and a generous father. A heart of humility that the only way to be a worker in the vineyard and to truly be a worker in the vineyard is you got to have a humility and understand it's not your donut. You got a donut. How can you complain? You're in heaven. You're already there. You're already baptized, children of God, called, redeemed, graced by God. You are there. You've been marked. You've been baptized. You've been sealed. You've been branded. God's got dibs. Why wouldn't you want somebody else to have that? Tozier, A.W. Tozier, as I opened up my devotional the other day, wrote this: Jesus calls us to his rest and meekness in his method, in his way. The meek man cares not anymore about who is greater than he, for he long ago decided that the esteem of the world is not worth the effort. He develops towards himself a kindly sense of humor and learns to say to himself, oh, so you've been overlooked. It's okay. And they've placed somebody else before you. It's okay. And they've whispered that, you're pretty small stuff after all. And it's okay. The meek man is not a human mouse, though, afflicted with a sense of his own inferiority, but rather he may be in his moral life as bold as a lion and as strong as Samson, but he has stopped being fooled about himself and who he is. He's accepted God's estimate of his own life. He knows he is as weak and hopeless as God has declared him to be, but paradoxically, he knows at the same time he is, in the sight of God, of the more important persons than angels, and in himself, nothing, but in God, everything. Moses told the people of Israel, all you have to do is stand here and watch God work. That's all you got to do. Stand here and watch God work. But he didn't mean just stand here, but he said just watch. Because in reality, God's the one doing the work. That's the hard part. It's not about me going to Illinois. It's not about you staying here. It's about God and what he's doing And he's doing it. He's already there. He's been preparing them. He's preparing me through you. He's preparing you for who, and he's already got somebody coming here. Because he's going to go too someday. But God's already preparing a pastor to come here with his own gifts, his own differences, or hers, or whatever, but with God's purpose in mind to say the same thing to you, maybe without donuts. We need to invite people because I've got the gift of heaven, and it doesn't get any sweeter than this. And I want you to have it. I want you to have it. I know where you've been. I don't care what you've done. I don't care how you failed. I don't care how you look. I don't care about anything. Because ultimately, God will take care of all of that problem. What I care about is the fact that there's a man passing out free donuts, and you gotta come. There's a man who's died for you, and you gotta come and see him. Now, this doesn't mean go out and invite people to church, and I've learned this in the last multiple years. First thing people do is, I got to go out and invite somebody to church. I don't want you to go invite anybody to church. First off, because this isn't the church. This is the church. This is a building. This is the church. So how can you invite him into yourself? But, you know what? In a culture today, when people don't even know what, as Mark Vandertyke says, they don't have any idea out there what we do in here. You invite them, what are they going to do? Like, no way. Why would I want to go in there? I've seen y'all. You're weird. I have no idea what you're doing in there. But what I want you to do is first off start with a relationship. I want you to go and start spending time with people in your work, in your neighborhood, in wherever you're at. You never know when God's going to put somebody before you. The grumpy store clerk at Hy-Vee the other day. I said, looks like you're having a rough day. Yep, it's been a long day. I said, you know what? The good thing is, today's going to end, tomorrow's going to be good, and if tomorrow doesn't come back, heaven. Isn't that what Paul said in Philippians? I desire to go, but I got to stay. But I'm torn because I know how good it's going to be, but I got to stay. It's okay. Build a relationship with people. Start letting them see you and get to know them, and then you'll find the places because God's going to open up all those places for you to say to somebody, why don't you come to the congregation I worship at and come meet the assembly? There's a man passing out free donuts, and we all enjoy them a lot better together. Because I could take that box of donuts and eat that all by myself, and that's going to do me no good. But I tell you what, it's a whole lot better to watch you all eat them. Because I got to watch what God does in you. For 6 years, I've been passing out donuts. For 6 years, I've been trying to invite people to come and get donuts. And I get to go do that in another place. And this isn't the first place I've done it. But I got to watch you have joy with your donut. And some misery along the way too. And that's okay, because life is messy. But I knew where this would end up. Because things are starting to happen. Things are starting to change. People are starting to come and people are starting to talk different, which is really kind of exciting to me. When an old person tells me somebody else asked them a tough question about what might possibly change when that Pastor Matt leaves, and they say to them, not if we don't let it change. It's time for me to go. My work is done here. And actually not mine. God's work is done because he's already started to plant the seed, and now it's time for me to go somewhere else. There's no joy in that. That's hard. That's going to be tough. But I will never forget the joy of watching you eat the joy. Every time you come up here, you don't know it. I'm watching your eyes and I'm watching your hands, because every pair of hands comes with a story. They're dirty, they're torn, they're broken, every one of your hands came up just like they did for donuts today, because we actually have already shared communion. We could go home. You come up with empty hands and God says, here, let me give you what you need. But know the joy. Remember the joy of eating the donuts. Remember the joy of knowing within your heart that Jesus has already claimed you, washed you, fed you, died for you, and he is always going to be longing for you. And then look around, because all you have to do is probably look at one person near you in the world, and they don't have it. And boy, do they need the joy. My son got to share something about me yesterday, so I get to share something about him. Yeah, it's still my son. It's hard to tell, but I love him, and we're okay. We're okay. I love you. They used to call him Matt Jr., and I think there's a reason. Tara, sit down, relax. This guy here is a college student who's about to graduate and go on to his life. And he tells me at the end of the summer, he says, I got to go back. I can't come home with you and Mom. I got to go home. Back to Omaha. Why? Well, we're moving students into the dorms. And I know Micah has been exceptionally involved in a church down there, along with everything else. And I said, moving people into the dorms. And I start getting Snapchats from Micah. Their entire purpose for his group of guys from his church to go move people into the dorms, they really didn't care about getting into the dorms. And if any of you have ever moved anybody into a dorm, how many of you got the top floor to have to go to? And there's never an elevator? Back in my day, there was never elevators. These guys did it because all they were looking for is how to have an opening to come back to them and say, hey, by the way, our church group's meeting tonight. We'd love to have you come. That's the invitation I want you to give. Find a way. Be what God's made you already and claimed you to be. And I will forever hold you in my heart. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all, always. Amen. Amen.